What's going on, everybody? I want to welcome you guys to the first ever FlowState Barber podcast. My name is Jabir Ali, and the purpose of this podcast is meant to be a learning area, learning kind of environment for barbers that are either just getting into the field or that have been in the field for a while. And the purpose is to flesh out the industry in a way that doesn't just focus on what we do behind the chair, but also focuses on what we do throughout our life and how we live our life as people that are in the service industry. So that means that we're focusing on things not only just about technique behind the chair and things that we can do to make sure that our clients leave the chair feeling happy and feeling their best, but also are looking at things like mentality and focus and how do we make sure that we are always framing ourselves and always improving ourselves in the best possible way every single day. Things like our mental health and our physical health, and ensuring that after a long day of working or even coming back home and kind of adjusting to that environment and maybe our work-life balance, and also working on making sure our backs and our knees are strong and things of that nature, right? How to talk to people. And a lot of people that are young maybe have difficulty talking to people, and that can be something that we focus on. Entrepreneurship, financial literacy, all of these things are things that barbers previously have all had to kind of figure out on their own, right? And there's never been a one-stop shop for people that are into cutting hair to basically come to and learn all these different avenues about entrepreneurship. So that is the whole point of this entire venture. And speaking of avenues, I actually want to introduce you guys to somebody, and that is Ali Rasouli. Ali Rasouli is the owner of the Avenue Barbershop located in Richmond Hill. And Ali is somebody that I've had the pleasure of getting to know for almost a year now. And he is somebody that epitomizes what it means, in my opinion, to have the correct focus and the correct mindset, right? So without further ado, we're going to get into the intro, and then we'll focus on talking more about Ali and what he focuses on. All right. So, Ali, welcome. I want to welcome you to the first ever episode of the FlowState Barber Podcast.
Let's go.
I'm really excited, and I really think that hopefully, God willing, this can be something that grows and that there is success in. And as long as we're teaching people, I know that you've obviously in the past have focused on, and even currently are focusing on educating other barbers, beginner barbers, and people that want to learn about the trade, but also you have a type of stoicism and also almost like a personality that you kind of just serve as a mentor to people just in general.
Wow.
Right? And that's something that I think really inspires a lot of people that we work with, and myself included. I wanted to basically break some of that down, break down your mindset, your mentality, your focus, why it is different from maybe the average barber, right? Barbers that we run into online, barbers that we run into when going to other barbershops to get our haircut or whatever the case may be. You have a very different focus. You have a very different mindset. You frame your focus in a very different way. And I think that that's very interesting because there's always going to be people that maybe subscribe to that notion and people that don't, right? But I think it's important for people, especially beginner barbers, to see why there's a benefit in that, right? So I'd like to jump in and just have you introduce yourself for a little bit. You can look at any of the cameras and introduce yourself, and just tell us a little bit about your story when you first came up. Why did you start cutting hair? What drew you towards this mentality that you have? Because I think that it's something that is one of your strongest suits. And just tell us a little bit about yourself and the venture that you're going on with the Avenue and all that sort of stuff.
Okay. Before I get started, thank you, Jabber, for having me.
Yeah.
It's an honor to be here. And so my name is Ali Rasouli. I'm the owner of the Avenue, located in Richmond Hill. And I came to Canada in around 2003 with my family. I was about 5 years old. We immigrated from Iran, and Jabber is asking what is the focus and how is your mentality the way it is? And honestly, the main reason and the main thing that has shifted and created my mindset is my mom. She's my biggest inspiration, without a doubt. Once you guys hear her story, I'm sure you'll get inspired, and she's probably one of the strongest women I know in my life. So, so yeah, and barbering has done a lot for me. So I just want to give back value to beginner barbers or anybody who's trying to become a barber. And I know Jabber's doing that as well, so that's why me and Jabber click so well. But yeah,
Awesome. I think that's really interesting to hear, especially about your mom and how your mom has kind of shifted that. And if you'd like to talk a bit more about that, and in particular, kind of like, when you were young or as you grew older, what were the things that you noticed with your mom? Because I've had the blessing of being able to meet your mom, and she's a lovely lady. And what kind of were the main takeaways, let's say, from your youth that you saw that your mom exhibited in terms of character that you wanted to emulate? Right. You know what I mean?
So let me get into. I'll give you guys a quick summary of my mother. So my mother, we came here as immigrants in 2003. She came with 6 children alone, and my father wasn't in the picture because of some personal issues, so he didn't come to Canada with us. So my mom was forced to raise 6 children on her own. Mm-hmm. And people here have 1 child and they have such a hard time, and it's so difficult, right? Imagine having 6 with no money, no clothes, you don't know the language, and there's all these barriers. So I've seen my mom go through a lot in Canada. We moved from Iran to Quebec to Toronto. And then in Toronto, she just started working, and she's always been working. My mom's always been working, and, she's a little bit of an entrepreneur. Actually, a bit of an entrepreneur. She's owned 2 businesses, and they're bakeries. And she's always working. She's always trying to provide. She always tried to make sure we're safe. There's food on the table. So that's kind of why I work so hard, is because I want to be a provider. I don't want to go through what I've been through when I was younger, coming here as immigrants. It's not easy. I know how it is. So if I could help other immigrants that come into Canada and they're trying to learn how to make money, put food on the table, become a barber, I would love to do that.
I think that's really inspiring. And part of the reason why I think that is because obviously being the son of immigrants as well, parents come to the country that they live in with very little means of sustaining themselves, right? And it's you hear stories about, our parents when they came here and how they. And my dad has a story of him moving to the States with, I think, $92 in his pocket, and that was it.
It's
and
insane.
He had to make a name for himself and lived in a car and did whatever, right? Like it's the type of stuff that you hear from our parents, and we thank the stars, that we don't have to go through the same things that they went through, especially in their younger years, right?
We're so blessed.
Absolutely, right?
And they had so many sacrifices they had to make.
Yeah, absolutely.
And we'll sometimes never understand.
Exactly. So when you talk about entrepreneurship from your mom's perspective, would it be fair to say that that's kind of the one thing that drew you towards wanting to kind of do your own thing? Because, comparatively, working as a barber is a pretty self-run job. You don't have necessarily somebody that you're always answering to. You're in charge of your own schedule. You have the flexibility to make that schedule. What would you say that that's one of the reasons why you kind of gravitated towards that?
Yeah, 100%. When I was younger, I tried so many different hustles. Mm-hmm. I've worked for fast food restaurants. Didn't go well. Lasted there a couple months. Mm-hmm. I've worked for warehouses. I worked for IKEA. I've even hustled a little bit myself with buying and selling cars on Kijiji, Facebook Marketplace. It went kind of well, but I wanted to find something that I enjoy. So the first time I actually cut hair was in high school. I picked up the clippers. I was trying to cut all my friends, and it didn't work out. So I kind of gave up. And then a couple years later, fast forward, I go to university. After first year, I go to university, and I'm talking to all these people in university, and I ask them, I'm like, what do you... And as I meet people, on the campus, I asked people, I'm like, so what do you guys want to be, or what do you guys want to do after you graduate? And most of the guys are like, I don't know. And I'm sitting there like, I don't know either. So why am I here?
Yeah, exactly.
I want to go find out what I want to do.
Yeah.
So after first year, I dropped out, and I picked up the clippers again, and I started cutting hair in my basement again. And this time it had worked out. And then I just stuck to it, got an apprenticeship at a barbershop, and I just stuck to it. But kind of having that entrepreneur mindset was always there. Even I remember in like grade 6, 7, when heavy snow would come, like the snowstorms, I would go with one of my friends, and we'd go start shoveling people's driveways, just start hustling here and there. And yeah, I guess the hunger was always there, right? You're kind of born with it.
Exactly. The hustle mentality is like something that you don't really lose, and if anything, it just kind of builds up over time, right? Until you find the thing that you really,
especially if you're passionate, right? Your heart has to be in it. And I feel like for me, barbering, my heart's been in it. I truly enjoy cutting hair, connecting with people. You meet lawyers, doctors, street people.
You meet so many people.
You meet all walks of life, and it's a blessing. It's for real a blessing.
Absolutely, man. So then I wanna kind of move on. You know, now that we've talked about your entry into barbering, and you kind of had to pick it up once, dropped it a little bit, picked it up again, it worked out. You obviously worked at 2 or 3 different barbershops prior to where you're working now, and this is now something that you can call your own, and an environment that you've built that kind of mimics and mirrors you as a barber, right? And that's the Avenue Barbershop. So take me through a little bit of that and your development and wanting to open something that is yours and have that environment be an environment that mirrors the mentality and the focus that you have. And I think the reason that I ask that is because I look at clients that come into the shop and they're like, this shop is like nothing that we've been to before. There's no other shop that has this like very relaxed vibe. Everything, the music's too loud, the barbers are too like, they're just cussing all over the place, doing whatever, you know what I mean? And like, we've had people that come in, they're like, I feel comfortable here. I feel like, we have a lot of clients that just come in, they walk in, they dap us up, they walk to the back, they're going to the bathroom, they're chilling in the chairs, whatever. Oftentimes, you go to another barbershop, if you walk past the front desk, the barbers will look at you like, what are you doing? You know what I mean? So what kind of inspired you to create that environment? Because I think the environment is something that, even when we talk, you don't give yourself enough credit for building that environment.
Damn, that's a good question. That's such a good question. Okay, so one thing with the barbershop is it's a community hub. It has to be a safe place people can come, have real conversations, connect with people, and just kind of have that free feeling. And a lot of barbershops, no offense to any, is very influenced by pop culture, kind of like you were saying. And even in the previous barbershops that I worked at, there were great people there. Everybody's great. But I always knew I was different. And I wanted to create an environment that was peaceful, almost. Yeah. Kind of like your monk mentality that you were mentioning earlier. Yeah. Just a peaceful environment. People can come, work, connect with people, and just leave, where there's no drama, no politics, stuff of that nature.
Yeah, no, exactly. And I think that kind of encapsulates your whole journey, which, initially it was finding a purpose, right? And picking up the clippers and going to school and leaving school and then picking them up again and working as a barber. And initially it's kind of just like, I need to find something to do. This needs to be my thing. Whether, in different aspects of entrepreneurship, but eventually it became building something bigger. And when do you feel like that shift happened for you? When you were working or when you were in school or whatever, where you decided this isn't, I don't want to say it's no longer enough, but it's something that you want, like, nobody wants to work in the same position without a raise for 40 years. You know what I mean? Like, you're looking at growing always. You're always looking at self-improvement. And when did that thing click for you where you're like, I need to make it that next step? What happened? Did anything happen?
I don't think it necessarily happened with barbering. It was an experience that happened in my personal life where I decided, okay, I got to fix things up and really focus on improving myself. Yeah. And that's when I started really getting into like character development, personal development. I started reading all these books, How to Win Friends, Influence People, Atomic Habits, 7 Habits of Highly Effective People, all these books. And then as I started that journey of like developing my character, I also around the same time I got into barbering,
Mm-hmm.
and I kind of just fusioned both of them, and I kept trying to excel, and yeah.
Yeah, honestly, that's great because it kind of breaks down the basis of where you're at now, right? That kind of was that's your whole backstory, and now moving on, we can talk about that monk mentality that we were talking about, right? So this is kind of what I wanted to talk to you about and really focus on the topic of like discipline, right? And having that discipline and having that understanding that I'm built for bigger things. I'm not small scale. I'm not small time. I have, this is my potential. I'm here. And I know that like everybody around me is also here, but I have the potential to do this. They only have the potential to do this. Not saying that anybody is stuck in the situation that they're in, but a lot of times it's mental, right? Mentally, you're like, I can't grow further than what I'm doing, than where I am, right? So for you, I wanted to ask what shaped that discipline within you, and if it was, a throwback to obviously your upbringing or whatever the case, there was, especially now we talk about there's not a lot of partying, there's no drinking, there's no reckless spending, right? Everything is really controlled. Everything has a purpose. Everything has a reason. That's discipline. And what would you say are some of the biggest factors that shape that discipline within you? Because it's something that is noticed by everybody.
Damn, these are some good questions, Jabber. Holy, wow, that's some good questions.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, believe it or not, I wasn't always disciplined.
Mm-hmm.
When I was in elementary school, high school, even before that, I was drinking here and there, maybe smoke a little bit here and there, talk to girls here and there.
Yeah.
But I always knew afterwards that it wasn't me. I was kind of getting influenced. So through spending time in solitude and realizing that the decisions I'm making are wrong,
Mm-hmm.
I need to lock in essentially,
Yeah,
right?
exactly.
And at the end of the day, man, discipline is liberating. As a man, if you're not disciplined, you won't achieve your goals. And especially if you're trying to reach your full potential as a man, or even a woman in that case, discipline is one of the main keys you need to get there.
Absolutely. I think there was a quote from Khabib. He was talking about, I saw this on Instagram or YouTube or something like that. It was Khabib was talking about the thing that gives a man purpose is that discipline.
It's true.
Right? That discipline, it takes you away from some of the things that we're drawn to in society, right? All these negative things that kind of are ingrained in our society. And sometimes those things aren't inherently negative. Sometimes they're fine, right? But sometimes the way that they are perceived is like, it's interesting, right? Like there's a need for discipline for a man. I feel like without it, there's something lacking, right? And I think that's
I think to go off your point,
yeah.
I think one of the main issues in our society or in our culture is distractions.
Mm-hmm.
And we live in a time, our generation, where there's more distractions than ever.
Mm-hmm.
People's attention span is like 6 seconds or something.
Yeah,
I'm guilty of that sometimes.
Yeah, honestly.
But it's something I consciously try to train, right? It's a skill.
Yeah, absolutely, man. Moving forward past discipline when it comes to focus and routine, something that has also shifted your routine and your focus has been your spirituality and your faith, right? And we share the same faith, so obviously we can talk a bit about that. But for you, I feel like that shift is something that almost doubles down on the whole discipline aspect for you, right? When you connect with your faith, it really dictates how you lead your life, which is something actually you inspire me in that way, because the thing sometimes we're talking at the shop and we'll talk about our faith, and some things that you tell me, I'm like, yo, like, as somebody that I've been, I've been blessed to have been on this path since I was young. I don't even think about things the way that you do, because for me, it's almost like it's just like, oh, okay, that's been the case. until you go back and you actually realize that it's not the case for a lot of people, right? So I wanted to talk to you about your connection with God as a foundation, and how spirituality has impacted your leadership at the barbershop and in your daily life.
Man, spirituality is probably, or spirituality aside, God is probably the main reason why I'm in the position I am with business, some personal achievements and whatnot that society will kind of label. 100% I would say it's all because of God that I've been able to achieve all these things and get to the places I've been. There's a point in my life where I was in a really dark place, and I kept going back to doing these bad sort of habits or negative habits, right? And I'm sure a lot of people are. It's human nature. But every time I would catch myself, I'd be like, God, like I would talk to God as a friend. I'd be like, God, I don't want to do this. But it was so hard. It was almost like I was stuck. I guess it was an addiction, right? To some point.
Yeah.
But then I kept talking to God. And then slowly he opened doors for me. And it didn't happen in a matter of like moments, days, or weeks, but it happened in a matter of days, weeks, months, and years until you look back and you're like, wow, I've come so far. So yeah, God is definitely number one for me. And I love to pray. I love my spirituality. And if I could inspire others to do the same, I would love that more than anything.
I think it's a grounding thing, you know, like it keeps you grounded. Oftentimes when you're moving too fast and you don't have the time to really focus on spirituality, and I'm guilty of this, you're moving so like you got to go here, then you got to go do this, and you're always like, for me, we talked about this, I'm like I'm always on the road. Like I don't go home after I finish work. I got to go here and I got to go there and I got to go pick up this, I got to go do that, right? And it almost like you get overwhelmed mentally. You're like, there's so much going on in my brain. It's small enough as it is, and I can't focus on all these things, right? And for me, and something that we've talked about, is like faith and having that connection with God helps you at the end of the day sit down, reflect, meditate in a way, and sometimes you might laugh, sometimes you might cry, some people might think you're psychotic, but it is what it is, because that's something that keeps you grounded, I think, right? And I think that having that is super important. No matter what it is that you subscribe to or that you follow, it doesn't really matter. Just having something that you can come to at the end of the day and be like, this is something that grounds me and that returns me back to center before my next day.
100%.
You never know what you're going to go through the following day.
Yeah,
you know what I mean?
We live in such a fast life, man, and to just be able to slow down and have that moment of like meditation, just talking to God as a friend. And at the end of the day, everybody's relationship with God is going to be different. Yeah. What you and God talk about or experience might be different from me, but in certain moments we could connect.
Absolutely. Right. Moving on, I wanted to talk to you about health and fitness. Right. So you are an athlete, right? You work in martial arts, you do boxing, right? And that's another aspect of discipline, right? And physical discipline, right? The role of the gym and kind of what that has done, what physical discipline has done for you to further that lifestyle and that mentality that you have, and kind of speak to the connection between your body and the health of your body, the kind of the benefit that does for your mind as well, because I know the healthy body, healthy mind, and vice versa. And how does that reflect in the craft that we're in and in barbering? How does that, all of those positive aspects of your body, of your mind, how do those come kind of together to present themselves in the craft that we do in barbering on the day-to-day?
Yeah, for me, training or physical exercise is a part of my character, part of my routine, my habits. If I don't do it, I do not feel the same. And to connect it to barbering, I feel like as barbers, we kind of have to perform for our clients and kind of bring our best selves. Yeah. And I remember there was days where I wasn't feeling the best. I don't want to go to work, but I have to. You're a man. You have to go to work. You have bills to pay. You have people to provide to. So what I would do is I'd go to the gym early in the morning, 6, 7, 8 a.m., take a cold shower, start cutting 9 a.m., 10 a.m., and it just alters your state.
Mm-hmm.
Exercise, sweating, releasing endorphins, the oxytocin, and it's a great way to just shift your state of mind, especially if you're in a low vibration, low state of mind. Exercising is the greatest. Even anytime I'm dealing with personal issues where I feel angry, depressed, I don't believe in depression, but if you feel depressed, sad, go exercise, go for a run, release that energy.
Yeah.
Find a channel to release it, and exercising is probably one of the greatest things.
So talk to me more about, you mentioned it very briefly, but low vibration, right? Low and high vibration, and kind of those states that you're in. Kind of talk to me about why you've gravitated towards that and understanding that, because that's something that I don't know much about, and I think that you've talked to me about this a bunch. But kind of break that down for me if you can.
Okay, so somebody who's low vibration would be somebody who's constantly their area of focus is their sexual desires and their appetite, you could say, food. And somebody of high vibrations would be somebody who's thinking about purpose, providing value, legacy, genuinely making people feel positive, right? So, to simplify it, yeah.
Okay. Yeah. So I think that's kind of the whole premise of this episode, right? Is to talk about how to move from low to high vibration, right? And high vibration is kind of where you would want to be and how you can ensure that you're growing and always getting 1% better every day, right? That's kind of the focus. And one of the things that I wanted to talk to you about and congratulate you about, because I haven't actually congratulated you on this, is you actually recently got married, right? And that's obviously a big change. And for some people it might be bigger than others, whatever the case. But I know marriage was an important thing, both in our faith, but also just in general. It gives you more of a purpose, right? And you finding that purpose and finding that person that you can kind of grow with. So I'd like for you to speak a bit about that, if you're comfortable. Just speak a little bit about, why you got married at the age that you did, because for most people, you are considered pretty young. You're 27. Why you chose now to get married, what made you feel like it was the correct choice, things of that nature.
Yeah, that's a good question. Getting married is a big blessing. Finding the right partner, I think you will both help each other fulfill your purpose. And essentially, relationships, maybe all relationships, they're almost like a mirror effect. So you get to learn a lot about yourself, your flaws, and it's a blessing. It's a big blessing. But I feel like there's a notion in our society where marriage is kind of looked down upon, or it's such a serious matter. But in other cultures, people get married at such a young age, and usually they end up pretty successful.
Yeah.
So I think there's an emphasis that marriage is a bigger deal than it is here in the West, when it actually isn't. And yeah.
It's a good way of looking at it. I think it comes back to kind of where we are and the environment that we are living in currently. There's a focus on, it's hedonism. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
hedonism is focusing on yourself above all, right? And there's, as a man and as somebody that understands that discipline matters and purpose matters, as a man, you need to have something to work towards and work for, right? And our families is one, and our parents is the main one when we're very young. But as we get older, then it moves to be our spouse and our kids and our legacy. Like you mentioned, high vibration, legacy, you're focusing on that. And that's something that I feel like isn't talked about enough. Why get married? Oh, you might not have the funds to get married. You might not have the funds to have a family, or whatever the case.
That's a big part, where people, they be spending like 50,000, 100,000, 20,000 on a wedding, but their family's struggling.
Exactly.
And there's people that are poor, and for me personally, it doesn't make sense to spend all this money on a wedding, and you have all these other financial problems.
Yeah.
But yeah.
Yeah, man. No, that honestly, it opens up exactly kind of talking about hedonism, and we, previously mentioned typical barber culture. I wanted to talk to you about the pressure that some young people might face when it comes to that typical pop culture or barber culture that we talked about initially. I wanted to also talk to you about how, like some basic tips almost that you can give somebody that might be struggling with those things on how to resist and redirect that energy.
I got a great one. Sorry to cut you off.
Tell me, please.
Okay, so a big one, this is a game changer.
Mm-hmm.
When you're driving, listen to nothing. Just silence. No music, nothing. Just use that time for self-reflection and visualization. Music will kind of manipulate your emotions and your thoughts a lot of the time. Yeah. And you're not actually thinking your own thoughts. Mm-hmm. So that's a huge one. That's a huge one.
Actually, we do that at the shop, where oftentimes
there's days, we don't listen to music.
Don't listen to anything.
For sure.
People walk in and like, yo, it sounds quiet in here, and you just hear the buzz.
Enjoy the silence, man.
Exactly, man. Right? There's a quote that I love, and I've told you about this quote. I actually wanted to put it on my station, but the quote is, "Speak only when your words are more beautiful than your silence." Right?
That's a big one.
That's a huge quote.
A lot of people be talking nonsense.
you just talk, right? And God knows I have a podcast. I'm struggling because I love to talk, and that's a detriment of myself, because oftentimes it leads to you volunteering information.
No, man.
My father always used to say, don't volunteer information.
No,
right?
You're such a knowledgeable person in like different areas of life, where when people communicate, and you're also open-minded. Yeah. So when people talk to you, they feel comfortable and welcoming.
So. Yeah. But I think even just in general, even when it's not in this environment, like speaking to people, I like to think that I'm pretty social, but what I've learned over the over the years that I've been working in barbering is like, you might talk a bit too much. As a barber, you might talk a bit too much.
For sure.
You never want to give away too much information. As a man, and obviously this is kind of like against what modern day science or whatever will tell you, make sure you talk about your emotions and whatever the case. That's important, but it's important to a degree. And I think having that internal struggle is a really big character building thing for every man, to kind of go through that and realize, like, at the end of the day, people aren't going to be focusing on me and what I need, because it's my job to focus on what the people around me need. And again, tying back into the hedonism that we're trying to get away from, is like, as a man, you have a responsibility, you have an obligation. And sometimes, obviously, there are times where you need a support system, and that's why you have a fiance or a spouse or a partner or anything along those lines to give you that emotional support when you do need it, which is a big thing. But that is not for everybody. That moment of weakness is only for the people that really matter in your life, and that can really help you get to that 100% where you used to be, for you to go and attack the day.
Yeah,
right?
Yeah.
And I think that's kind of, I kind of on a tangent a little bit, but
but a lot of people make that mistake sometimes. You open up to too many people and too often, which is not the best. But sometimes people don't have anybody to talk to. I noticed
of
too.
Course, yeah.
But for sure, there has to be like a balance between opening up and being like reserved.
Definitely, I think that balance is really important. The last thing before we move on into the next topic is I wanted to talk to you about some advice that you have for younger barbers, and somebody that, let's say, and we have a couple guys that have come to the shop that are looking to learn how to cut hair. Give me a couple steps, just really quickly, give me a couple steps that you would say or give to these younger barbers to avoid them falling into bad cycles or bad habits. And let's do that first. Let's get a couple steps that you might have for how to avoid falling into bad habits.
That's a really good question.
Yeah.
I think one of the most important practices is respecting yourself. Mm-hmm. And I think most people don't respect themselves. And sometimes respecting yourself is the way you talk about yourself, the way you let others talk about you, the way you treat others, and respecting others, and people will respect you. And even the way you treat your body, right? That's a form of respect. Mm-hmm. Are you exercising? So just take yourself serious, respect yourself. It's very important.
Yeah. I think treating it like a job is something that sometimes even, and I'm guilty of it as well. Sometimes, I don't have clients, I don't show up. And that's something where I've thought to myself, I'm like, yo, this is a job. You got to treat it like a job. You might not have, as other people have, this almost like somebody breathing down their neck to do the work. You got to breathe down your own neck.
Yeah, because you work for yourself.
Exactly.
You have this like freedom.
So it comes back to, like you said, respecting yourself, right?
And
like,
it kind of ties into like everything we're talking about, right? Like
exactly.
discipline.
Exactly, right? So I think there's times in which you can waver, but as long as you know what your purpose is and you get back to that point, you're fine. And again, like what we talked about with faith, with working out and physical health, with having a purpose, all of these things kind of draw you back towards, there maybe are times where you waver, but because
like
you have
coming
all those
back
things,
on your path.
Exactly. They draw you back to center. Right?
Yeah, there was a book. It was called Outwitting the Devil by Napoleon Hill. Phenomenal book.
Yeah.
Highly recommend.
Mm-hmm.
And then the term he uses is called drifting.
Mm-hmm.
It's like as you're on your purpose and you're trying to achieve everything that you're trying to achieve, what the devil will kind of do, what he uses the negative term is the devil will kind of make you want to drift off of your path.
Like stray.
And so there's sometimes people drift so long they don't come back.
Exactly, right? And they don't even know that they drifted. Because it's
Yeah.
not like it tells you. It's not like the world will tell you you're moving away from what
No, you
need to
don't.
do.
It's self-awareness.
You have to have that self-awareness, right? That's awesome. And the last thing I would ask you in this segment is one or two steps for a young man or woman or entrepreneur that is looking to kind of build that meaningful long-term path, to build that focus. What would you say
For entrepreneurs, you said?
for entrepreneurs, barbers, whoever's kind of starting out? Any tips that you have for them to build a path towards success, right? What should they, we talked about what they should focus on, but any other tips that you can think of off rip that would give them kind of like a framework?
Learning. Just keep learning.
Yeah.
Keep learning. Keep surrounding yourself with people that intimidate you, that you aspire to be like almost. Because sometimes if I heard the saying, it was like, if you're the smartest in the room, you're in the wrong room.
Yeah.
So put yourself in the room where you're kind of the dumbest,
yeah.
and just keep learning, keep growing.
That's a fact. It's a good thing I'm not the smartest in this room. But anyways, we'll move on.
I'm not either.
All right, we're looking at you then. We're going to move on to a little bit of a topic about leadership, and something that we've talked about, obviously, with teaching people and coaching people, is that leadership and encouraging people to keep learning and keep growing. One thing I want to ask you is, on the concept of leadership and on the topic of that, working at the shop, there's a couple things I want to ask you about the shop. So the first is, what are some of the reasons why, and this can be very quick because most of it's self-explanatory, but what are some of the things, what are some of the things that you invest in when it comes to the people working at your shop, and why do you find it necessary to invest in people? That doesn't always mean financially. That could also mean to help them learn, to help them grow in different ways, different skills, things of that nature.
Good question.
Right? But why do you think that that's important?
So first, leadership begins with yourself. You have to be able to lead yourself, hold yourself accountable, and hold yourself responsible. Once you're able to do that, then your duty as a leader is to help others lead their own life. So sometimes I take on roles and responsibilities where I kind of have to be there for my barbers, employees, whatever you want to call it, and kind of ask them, hey, how are you? How's everything with your personal life? How's this? How's that? And just connect with them.
Exactly.
Especially in a time where I feel like ever since COVID, everybody's kind of been a bit more antisocial and stuff. So to be more present and just connect with people, that's a big component.
It is, yeah. And I can speak to it personally because we've had those conversations before as well, right?
A lot.
They help. They help a lot, especially as somebody that, I thank God that I have a semblance of a support system around me, but sometimes you don't. And having somebody that is in that leadership role, that takes that leadership role very seriously, is something that is extremely valuable, right? Because it's somebody that you can really
Lean
look
on.
to. Yeah, you can lean on them, right? That's a big thing, right? The next thing I would ask is, when you're looking at bringing in a barber to the shop, right? And we've been we've had the same group of guys for a while now. I've been there since November of last year, so it's been almost a year that I've been at the shop. But I know obviously you're always considering bringing on people if they have the right vibe and they fit. What are some of the things that you look for when bringing somebody on to maybe work or shadow at the Avenue?
First thing, maybe maturity, or even like potential to be mature.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And then I'm sure over time they would adopt our barbershop culture.
Mm-hmm.
Maturity is a big one, and whether they want to work with the brand and stick with us,
Mm-hmm.
or just come for a short period of time, help us grow, we help them grow, and then they kind of go off and do their own thing.
Absolutely.
That's fine too, right?
Yeah.
As long as it's win-win. But
Of course.
yeah.
Okay. And you talked about that barbershop culture, right? So, or the Avenue's barbershop culture in particular. And I wanted to ask you then, what are some of the systems or the values, and you kind of put that together, the values that you have in place for the barbershop, the things that we focus on at the shop.
Good question.
Right.
Okay. A huge one for me is respect.
Mm-hmm.
Respect each other, respect yourselves, respect the environment.
Yeah.
So that way, not too many problems arise.
Yeah.
Number two, almost a family type dynamic. When you're in the barbershop or in other service type businesses, you spend a lot of time with the people around you, your coworkers. So it's nice to kind of have a second family outside of your real family.
Yeah.
And those are the main ones. Other than that, yeah, I can't think of too many off the top of my head.
Yeah. Honestly, that covers a good amount of it, right? Because the connection that we have at the shop with all the other barbers there it's a brotherhood. We call it a brotherhood. We connect with each other. We laugh, we joke. Sometimes we throw a couple digs here and there, couple shots,
couple jabs.
Yeah, but ultimately we know that it's all because we work in the same field and we value each other, we respect each other, right? And if there's anything that comes up from that, it's a feud between brothers, and that can always be fixed.
Yeah, and
right?
I was reading this book. It was called The 5 Problems Within a Team, the 5 Dysfunctions of a Team. And one of the dysfunctions of the team is fear of conflict.
Mm-hmm.
So a lot of people, they're afraid of getting into fights, arguments,
of course,
conflict, but it's a normal part of being human. You kind of have to fight a little bit.
Yeah.
As long as you're mature enough to kind of,
there's always a resolution that comes after that, right? Like, and you having the maturity, again, to call back to a maturity, is you want to be able to have the maturity to come to that resolution.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah. Okay. And then the last thing I would say, and I would ask you, is just briefly speak on some of the challenges. And honestly, like, this can go as deep or as surface level as you want, but speak to some of the challenges of running the shop and some advice that you would give to somebody that is looking to move into owning a shop in the future. We talked about it a little bit as well, some of the challenges. So I don't want to go too deep into, go as in depth or as surface level as you want.
Okay.
Yeah.
There's a lot that goes into opening your own barbershop or business. Just get ready for a roller coaster ride of emotions, finances, your personal life and your business life combating each other, because there's going to be so much tough times, but there will also be some good times.
Okay.
And the tough times, at the end of the day, they should make you stronger, right? But for me, opening up the barbershop, in the beginning, it was really, really tough. I was really struggling financially, emotionally, but I just thugged it out, kept going at it, and
put your head down, keep working.
Put my head down, showed up every morning till night, did what I had to do, stayed strong. And after a year and a half, I started to see the fruits of my labor a little bit, of genuinely trying to help people and provide good value and service to customers, clients. But Yeah, it's a roller coaster ride for sure.
Just kind of gives a brief look into kind of, it's not all sunshine and rainbows or whatever, right? When you hop into that, you're going to go through some challenging stuff, and whether that's dealing with people or dealing with money or dealing with, anything along those lines, right? So that the kind of take away a bit of the rose-colored glasses from people that might be looking at it and saying, oh, this is my next step. Maybe it's not. It's not for everybody, right? And it could be for that person, or it could be, maybe that helps them to kind of see, maybe it's not for me.
I had a similar conversation with a couple of my friends, and we spoke about how sometimes working a 9 to 5 or working for somebody is amazing.
Mm-hmm.
You go put in your hours, make your money. Once you clock out, you don't have to worry about anything.
Exactly.
But as a business owner or entrepreneur,
it's 24/7.
I go to sleep, I'm thinking about business.
You're
I
dreaming
wake
about
up,
it.
I'm thinking about what I got to do next. And there's almost like nonstop.
Yeah.
So just be prepared for that.
Yeah. Be prepared to always be on the clock.
On the clock, no breaks.
Always. Yeah, and you're not getting paid for it either. I mean?
And maybe even once you open up a business or any business, barbershop, be ready to not make any money for the first year, 2 years.
Yeah, I think that's a big thing, right? Like a lot of businesses fail in the first year or two, right? A lot of businesses are net zero or negative in the first year or two. So I think that's important to have set realistic expectations when it comes to it. And that's important for young people to kind of realize, like, you have to set realistic expectations and goals. That doesn't mean don't shoot for the moon, right?
For sure,
you always want to shoot for the moon, and you want to aim high, but you also have to understand that nothing goes according to plan. There's always going to be curveballs in any venture, in any entrepreneurship venture, or even in a 9 to 5. Always going to be curveballs. It could be something as small as, like, you got to get to work and your car stops working. You pop a tire, right? It could be, God forbid, health issues, right? All of these things could happen. So aim high, but understand that stuff can come up, and set realistic expectations all the time. I think that's important.
Hope for the best, but expect the worst.
Exactly. There you go. I wanted to kind of wind down and just ask a couple shorter questions to you, and kind of break down, again, keeping the focus on mentality and focus and mindset. I have rapid fire questions for you.
Let's get it.
So I'm going to ask you, what's one book that every barber should read, and what's one book that every person should read?
A book every person should read, 7 Habits of Highly Effective People.
Okay.
Every barber should read. Oof, this is a good one. Maybe every barber should read.
Would you say it's the same one?
Honestly, I would recommend the same one, or even classical How to Win Friends, Influence People.
Mm-hmm. I see.
Just work on your social skills.
Yeah.
And understand human nature a little bit.
Solid. Okay. And furthering on that question, what book has impacted your mindset the most within the past year? And that could be the book that we know as well.
The Quran.
Yeah, 100%.
100%, no
100%,
doubt.
right? So that leads to the next question is, what lesson from the Quran has stuck with you the most in your business or personal life?
Man, God is great. And God is great,
Yeah.
and the most merciful, and God wants to see you win.
Of course.
But you have to want to see yourself win.
Yeah.
In any realm, personal, relationships.
Just to cut you off, that's a saying that I say a lot. The saying is, trust your God, but tie your camel, right? Trust in God, but tie your camel. Basically what that means is we leave everything towards God, right? We want to make sure that we leave everything towards him, and that you kind of give up in that regard. Like, you're like, I've done whatever I can. I've tied my camel. I've made sure that I've covered all my bases.
I did my part.
But now it's God's plan, as Drake says, right? Like, that's what you want to make sure, that you leave it up to God, because we're very small brain. We got a pea-sized brain. We're not very intelligent. Humans aren't very smart, right? But we believe that God is infinitely smart, right? And so his plan is 100 times, 1,000,000 times, 1,000,000,000 times better than our plan, right? Infinity times.
You have to do your part and just leave it up to God, for
do
sure.
your best and leave the rest up to God, right? And the last question is talking about books. Do you prefer reading early in the morning or late at night? And also, another question, this is a selfish question that I have, is you can answer that one first, but if somebody wants to get into reading, like myself, I'm always looking, I'm like, yeah, I really want to read a book. And I'm like, not that much, actually. You know what I mean?
It's not for everybody, man.
It's not.
It's not for everyone.
But I think what is something that, obviously, number one, reading early morning or late at night, and also what kind of tips do you have for somebody to be like, you got to lock in and read a book, you should read this one to start with, it's going to make you fall in love with reading or something like that. You know what I mean? What do you think?
It's kind of like watching a movie. You could watch a bad movie that you're not passionate about and be like, oh, I don't want to really watch that movie. Or you watch a movie and you're like, wow, I would love to watch that again.
Yeah, exactly.
So you have to read a book that really captures your attention, your heart, your passion, something you genuinely like. And for me, I always like just personal development, becoming better. And and answer your morning or night question.
Yeah.
I like both, but I believe morning is better.
Morning is better.
Because
start your day off right.
Your brain is vulnerable to information versus at the night, your brain is on like overload. There's so much information. So you reading, you might not remember it afterwards.
That's smart. Yeah, I like that. I usually read at night, and then I'm like, I can't.
Yeah.
It's not. I can't stick to it. Maybe I should start reading in the morning. Okay. That means I got to get up earlier. That's another issue. That's besides the point. Moving on to quick questions about faith and spirituality. What's one daily habit that keeps you close to God?
Praying,
right?
That's
So praying is the main one. What would you say is like the second one underneath that?
spending time with people that are also God conscious. That's a big one.
Surrounding yourself with people that
like-minded.
like-minded people, but also people that are going to push you to get better as well.
Keep you accountable, because sometimes your self-awareness is limited to what you can see, but somebody from outside of you, like a brother, sees defects and faults that you may not see. So when you guys have that conversation, it's like, wow, how did I not see that?
Yeah. Okay. What is one, getting into like really the weeds, what is one ayat or one hadith that you've heard that you think that every barber could kind of benefit from reflecting on a little bit? And it doesn't need to be super God conscious.
Ayah or hadith? I don't know. For me, when I read the Quran, I just go so deep into it.
Yeah.
And I honestly don't know.
Would you think it would be that silence one?
The silence one? That one's a big one.
That was a big one.
That one's a big one.
That one's a huge one. I think just you want to make sure that you, like you said, if you're the smartest person in the room, there's another quote that I have that is really big, but it's a wise man speaks when he's got something to say, but a fool speaks because he has to say something. You know what I mean? And oftentimes, again, I act like a fool, but I talk so much, and I'm like, okay, like maybe I should dial it back and realize that I don't need to say all this, right? And maybe like let the room breathe a little bit. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Not necessarily one from the Quran that I can think of off the top of my head, but I think that's another just quote that I would say, try to reflect on that a little bit. And then last question with regards to faith is, what's a spiritual principle that you think guides how you run the shop? It's a
That's a
principle
good
that
one.
you put in your life, yeah.
Treating other people the way you want to be treated. That's a huge one.
So just respect.
And it's hard, honestly, because sometimes you're down, you don't want to treat people certain ways, but treat others how you want to be treated.
Yeah. So one thing I'd say about the shop that, you know, on a personal level for me, there's been days where I've had a really bad day and I've walked into the shop and it's hard for me to be angry, right? Being around the environment that we're in, it's very difficult for me to stay angry and think about the negatives, right? And I'm just like, I start cutting hair. I'm like, I forget why I was mad. You know what I mean?
That's amazing.
It's a really good feeling, and it's something that I would say if you can find an area like that for yourself, regardless of people that are, you know, maybe new into the field or whatever the case, try to find that, because it's going to really make sure that you can regulate, meaning that you should still feel the emotions that you're feeling, but you want to be able to regulate, and you never want it to affect how you communicate with other people, because
That's a big skill.
yeah, that's tough.
How do I communicate well when I don't feel like it?
Yeah, exactly.
That's a
right?
big skill.
Because often, like, you're never always gonna feel like communicating well.
100%.
Right? We've had days where we've had cuts where we don't talk to the client once. We get their name, what they do for work. All right, I'm done. Just like we say, enter flow state, right? So at that point, sometimes you're locked in and you're not really focusing. And then I realize, I'm like, oh, I haven't talked to this guy in like 30 minutes. Let me just like chat to him a little bit.
Ask him how he's doing.
Right? But sometimes you just enter that mode where you're just like zoned in and you're like, I see this. This is all I see, right? Tunnel vision. But it's a good type of tunnel vision. One or two more topics that we can talk about is discipline and lifestyle. So obviously we talked about reading and we talked about physical activity and gym. I'm going to give you a tough question. If you could only pick one out of those two, either hitting the gym and working physically or reading and working kind of spiritually and building that, which one are you?
Okay, hold on. Just to repeat your question,
Yeah.
you can only choose one of them. It's reading and working, or exercising and.
No. So reading or exercising.
Okay.
Between those two, which do you feel like would benefit you or benefit others the most between those two?
That's actually a tough question.
That's a tough question. Yeah.
Wow. Probably exercising, because if you don't read, you can still learn a lot through socializing with other people.
Yeah.
But reading is like, it's the biggest life hack, man.
Yeah. Really.
Well, I would definitely choose exercising.
Exercising or reading. Yeah. And then talking about discipline and lifestyle more, what is the biggest waste of time that you find that other maybe barbers or other entrepreneurs might fall into? And on top of that, what's one thing that you wish that more barbers did for their health? So it's two-part question.
So
for the first
question,
what is the biggest waste of time that barbers might fall into?
Barbers or entrepreneurs? I would say overconsumption with social media, internet, or even overconsumption of consumerism, buying
things,
products, buying shoes, that. It's all irrelevant.
Yeah, it's all material.
Yeah.
And then what's one thing that you wish more barbers would do for their health?
Fast.
That's a big one.
Fasting is a big one.
It's a spiritual connection to that as well, right?
100%.
That we've talked
Physical,
about.
spiritual, mental.
It's all, that helps you get grounded a lot. We've talked about going on, a 3-day fast?
About that. Yeah, we were talking about that the other day.
You don't think I can go through it. But we'll see. Well, maybe I'll munch up a lot beforehand and we'll get into it, But yeah, man, that's a big one. And I think it helps with getting spiritually grounded and just regulating yourself again, right? A couple questions about business and mindset. And the first is, what is the smartest investment that you've made in yourself?
Smartest investment I've made in myself. Developing my habits.
Yeah.
That's the most important. Your habits will define your future.
Yeah.
And they'll define your character.
Okay. And a question for you, second question is, if you lost everything today, if today you had to start new, what is the first thing you would do to rebuild your life?
These are some good questions, bro. Wow. I always think about that, and I wouldn't mind, honestly, if I did lose everything. But the first thing I would do is surround myself around the right people that have similar visions to me. I think your environment is like the most important, powerful thing ever.
Yeah. You
hang around 5 poor people, you'll become the 6, and if you hang around 5 intelligent people, you'll become the 6.
Yeah. That's a good way of thinking as well. Hang around 5 people, you'll become the 6th. Right.
Just hang around people.
Surround yourself with people that you're trying to be like, you're trying to emulate. It's a good way of thinking. Let's see here. One piece of advice. This is the final question. One piece of advice that you'd give a new barber in their first year.
Oh, new barbers in their first year. Find a mentor, man.
Yeah.
Find a mentor. Find somebody that you see they're on their journey and you're like, wow, I could learn so much from them.
Not just from a barbering perspective, too.
Even personal.
Yeah.
Like, wow, I would love to aspire to be like that person.
Yeah.
They're successful. They have a great family life, personal life, and yeah, that's very important.
And sometimes it's not a mentor when it just comes to one thing. sometimes it's a mentorship. You have to have multiple mentors almost.
For sure.
Sometimes you'll have a mentor when it comes to that spirituality. Sometimes you'll have a mentor when it comes to actually like technique and working. Sometimes it's a mentor when it comes to financial literacy. Sometimes it's a mentor when it comes to spirituality or mindset, right? Like all of these things. Sometimes there's somebody that actually manages to encapsulate everything. That's very difficult to find.
100%.
But if you find one person for each, you can become that person that encapsulates everything, right? So I think that's important as well, to understand that there's always going to be people that you can pick and choose things from, right?
It's a journey, yeah.
Yeah.
And
right.
It's always evolving, your
Exactly.
mentors. And
sometimes you might outgrow somebody. And that's okay. Then you find the next person.
Right.
Now, just to kind of wind down, that's pretty much the last thing. I want to ask you to really focus in on your camera. It's a white camera. And let us know a little bit about, I don't know, have you seen Hot Ones with Sean Evans? Have you seen that show? You know how at the end of it he does like, tell us a bit about yourself and tell us what's going on in your life.
I haven't watched it in a while.
Yeah, it's been I haven't actually watched that show in a minute as well. But basically let us know a little bit about what's going on, a little bit about the final takeaways that you would give the people that might be watching and listening, what you would tell them, what you would say, you know, the final little key takeaways. If you took nothing else away from this, take this away from it. Mm-hmm. What would you have to say?
If you're somewhere low in your life, it's okay. Just accept it, submit to it, but have complete and 100% faith in God that you'll get out and you'll achieve that exact vision that you have in your mind. And you will get there. But you need to have that 100% faith in God and take action every moment, every day, and you will get there. Whether it's relationship, business, your personal life, your family life, whatever you can visualize, you can attain. But do the internal work first.
All right. I want to thank you guys for tuning in to the first episode of the Flow State Barber Podcast. I'm extremely, extremely excited and honestly blessed that I've had this opportunity to start this out, and I'm really hoping that this continues to build and improve. I want to ask everybody to go ahead and make sure that you follow the socials, do all that subscribing stuff, the YouTube, the Instagram, the TikTok, what else we got? I think that's about it. Check it out all over. Go ahead, hit the follow, hit the subscribe, do all that fun stuff. I hope you had a good time. I hope that we were able to talk about some important stuff. Is there anything that you feel like we didn't talk about?
No, I feel like, man, you asked some amazing questions and the preparation was immaculate.
Yeah.
I just want to say thank you for doing this.
Of course, brother.
Thank you for doing this and just spreading knowledge, light amongst your community, barbering, personal. That's amazing.
Yeah, man. That's the plan. And I hope you guys enjoyed. Hope everybody enjoyed. And hopefully we see you guys in the next episode. Peace out.